May 30th, Ester 1 through 5. Ester 1. And it came to be in the days of Ahasuerus. He is the Ahasuerus who reigned from India to Kush, 127 provinces. In those days, when sovereign Ahasuerus sat on the throne of his reign, which was in the citadel of Shushan, that in the 3rd year of his reign, he made a feast for all his officials and servants. The power of Persia and Media, the nobles and the princes of the provinces were before him. When he showed the riches of his esteemed reign and the splendor of his excellent greatness for many days, 180 days. And when these days were completed, the sovereign made a feast lasting 7 days for all the people who were present in the citadel of Shushan, from great to small, in the courtyard of the garden of the sovereign's palace. White and blue tapestries were fastened with cords of fine linen and purple on silver rods, and marble columns. The couches were of gold and silver on a mosaic pavement of porphyry, marble, mother of pearl, and black marble. And they served drinks in golden vessels, the vessels being different from one another, with much royal wine, according to the hand of the sovereign. And drinking was according to the law. No one was compelled, for so the sovereign had ordered all the officers of his house, that they should do according to each one's pleasure. Sovereigness Vashti also made a feast for the women in the royal palace, which sovereign Ahasuerus owned. On the 7th day, when the heart of the sovereign was glad with wine, he ordered Mehuman, Biztha, Harbona, Bigtha, Abagtha, Zethar, Carcass, and the 7 eunuchs who were in attendance in the presence of a sovereign Ahasuerus, to bring the sovereigness Vashti before the sovereign with her royal crown, in order to show her loveliness to the people and the officials, for she was lovely to look upon. But sovereigness Vashti refused to come at the sovereign's command, brought by his eunuchs. And the sovereign was very wroth, and his rage burned within him. So the sovereign said to the wise men who understood the times, for in this way the sovereign's matter came before all who knew law and right ruling, and who were close to him: Karshina, Shethar, Admatha, Tarshish, Merez, Marsina, Memucan, the 7 princes of Persia and Media, who saw the sovereign's face, who sat first in the reign. According to the law, what is to be done? Sovereigness Vashti, because she did not perform the command of sovereign Ahasuerus through the eunuchs. And Memucan answered before the sovereign and the princes, Sovereigness Vashti has misbehaved not only toward the sovereign, but also toward all the princes and all the people who are in all the provinces of sovereign Ahasuerus. For the matter of the sovereigness shall go forth to all women, to make their husbands despised in their eyes, when they say, Sovereign Ahasuerus commanded sovereigness Vashti to be brought before him, but she did not come. And this day the princesses of Persia and Media shall say to all the sovereign's officials that they have heard the matter of the sovereigness, with plenty of scorn and wrath. If it pleases the sovereign, let a royal decree go out from him, and let it be recorded in the laws of the Persians and the Medes, so that it does not pass away, that Vashti shall come no more before sovereign Ahasuerus, and let the sovereign give her royal position to another who is better than she. And let the sovereign's decree which he makes, and let the sovereign's decree which he makes shall be proclaimed throughout all his rule, great as it is, and all the wives give esteem to their husbands, both great and small. And the word was good in the eyes of the sovereign and the princes, and the sovereign did according to the word of Memucan. So he sent letters to all the sovereign's provinces, to each province in its own writing, and to every people in their own language, that each man should be the master of his own house, and speak the language of his people. Ester 2. After these events, then the wrath of sovereign Ahasuerus had ceased. He remembered Vashti, which he had done, and what he had decreed against her. Then the sovereign servants who attended him said, Let lovely young maidens be sought for the sovereign, and let the sovereign appoint officers in all provinces of his reign, and let them gather all the lovely young maidens to the citadel of Shushan, and to the women's quarters under the hand of Hegai, the sovereign's eunuch, guardian of the women, to give their preparations. And let the young woman who pleases the sovereign be sovereigness instead of Vashti. And the word pleased the sovereign, and he did so. In the citadel of Susan, there was a certain man, a Jew, whose name was Mordecai, son of Yair, son of Shimi, son of Kish, Benjamite, who had been exiled from Jerusalem with the captives, who had been exiled with Econiah, sovereign of Judah, whom Nebuchadnezzar, the sovereign of Babel, had exiled. And it came to be that he was raising Hadashah, that is, Ester, his uncle's daughter, for she had neither father nor mother. The young woman was beautiful and of good appearance, and when her father and mother died, Mordecai took her as his own daughter. And it came to be, when the sovereign's command and decree were heard, and when many young women were gathered at the citadel of Shushan, into the hand of Hegai, that Ester too was taken to the sovereign's palace, and into the hand of Hegai, guardian of the women. And the young woman pleased him, and she received loving commitment from him. So he hastened to give her preparations and her portions, and gave her 7 choice female servants from the sovereign's palace. And he moved her and her female servants to the best place in the house of the women. Esther had not made known her people or her relatives, for Mordecai had commanded her not to make it known. And every day Mordecai walked about in front of the courtyard of the women's quarters to learn of Esther's welfare and what was done to her. Now, when the turn of each young woman came to go in to sovereign Ahasuerus, after she had completed 12 new moons according to the regulations for the women, for the days of their preparation were completed as follows: 6 new moons with oil of myrrh, and 6 new moons with perfumes, and with the preparations of women. Thus prepared, the young woman went to the sovereign, and whatever she asked for was given to take with her from the house of the women to the sovereign's place. In the evening she went, and in the morning she returned to the second house of the women, into the hand of Shaashgaz, the sovereign's eunuch, guardian of the concubines. She would not come into the sovereign again unless the sovereign delighted in her and called for her by name. And when the turn came for Esther, the daughter of Abihail, the uncle of Mordecai, who had taken her as his daughter, to come into the sovereign, she sought no matter but what Hegai, the sovereign's eunuch, guardian of the women, advised. And Esther found favor in the eyes of all who saw her. And Esther was taken to sovereign Ahasuerus into his royal palace in the 10th new moon, which is the new moon of Tebeth, in the 7th year of his reign. And the sovereign loved Esther more than all the women, and she found favor and loving commitment in his eyes, more than all the maidens. And he set the royal crown upon her head, and made her sovereigness instead of Vashti. And the sovereign made a great feast, the feast of Esther, for all his officials and servants. And he proclaimed a release in the provinces, and gave gifts according to the means of a sovereign. And when maidens were assembled a second time, Mordecai sat within the sovereign's gate. Esther had not made known her relatives and her people yet, as Mordecai commanded her. For Esther obeyed the command of Mordecai, as when she was being raised by him. In those days, while Mordecai sat within the sovereign's gate, 2 of the sovereign's eunuchs, Bigthan and Teresh, doorkeepers, were wroth, and sought to lay hands on sovereign Ahasuerus. And the matter became known to Mordecai, who informed sovereigness Esther. And Esther spoke to the sovereign in Mordecai's name. And when the matter was searched into, it was confirmed, and both were hanged on a wooden structure. And it was written in the book of the annals, in the presence of the sovereign. Esther 3. After these events, sovereign Ahasuerus promoted Haman, son of Hammedatha, the Agagite, and exalted him, and seated him higher than all the princes with him. And all the sovereign's servants who were in the sovereign's gate bowed and did obeisance to Haman, for so the sovereign had commanded concerning him. But Mordecai would not bow or do obeisance. And the sovereign's servants who were in the sovereign's gate said to Mordecai, "Why do you disobey the sovereign's command?" And it came to be, when they spoke to him daily, and he would not listen to them, that they told Haman to see what other words of Mordecai would stand, for he had told them that he was a Jew. And when Haman saw that Mordecai did not bow or do obeisance, Haman was filled with wrath. But it was despicable in his eyes to lay hands on Mordecai alone, for they had informed him of the people of Mordecai. Therefore Haman sought to destroy all the Jews who were throughout all the reign of Ahasuerus, the people of Mordecai. In the 1st new moon, which is the new moon of Nisan, in the 12th year of sovereign Ahasuerus, someone cast pur, that is, the lot, before Haman from day to day, and from new moon to new moon, until it fell on the 12th month, which is the new moon of Adar. Haman told sovereign Ahasuerus, "There is a certain people scattered and dispersed among the people in all the provinces of your reign, whose laws are different from all people, and they do not do the sovereign's laws. Therefore it is not in the sovereign's interest to let them remain. If it pleases the sovereign, let a decree be written to destroy them, and let me pay 10,000 talents of silver into the hands of those who do the work, to bring it to the sovereign's treasuries." And the sovereign took his signet ring from his hand and gave it to Haman, son of Hammedatha, the Agagite, the enemy of the Jews. And the sovereign said to Haman, "The silver and the people are given to you. Do with them as seems good to you." And the sovereign's scribes were called on the 13th day of the 1st new moon, and a decree was written according to all that Haman commanded, to the viceroys of the sovereign, and to the governors who were over each province, and to the officials of all people, to every province according to its writing, and to every people in their language. It was written in the name of sovereign Ahasuerus, and sealed with the sovereign's signet ring. And the letters were sent by the runners into all the sovereign's provinces, to cut off, to kill, and to destroy all the Jews, both young and old, little children and women, in one day, on the 13th day of the 12th new moon, which is the new moon of Adar, and to plunder their possessions. A copy of the writing, to be made law in every province, was published for all people, to be ready for that day. The runners went out, hastened by the sovereign's command, and the decree was given out in the citadel of Shushan. The sovereign and Haman then sat down to drink, but the city of Shushan was in confusion. Ester 4. And Mordecai learned of all that had been done, and Mordecai tore his garments, and put on sackcloth and ashes, and went out into the midst of the city, and cried out with a loud and bitter cry. And he went up to the front of the sovereign's gate, for no one might enter the sovereign's gate wearing sackcloth. And in every province where the sovereign's command and decree came, there was great mourning among the Jews, and fasting, and weeping, and wailing. And many lay in sackcloth and ashes. And Esther's young women and eunuchs came and told her, and the sovereigness was deeply pained, and sent garments to Mordecai to wear, and to take away his sackcloth from him, but he refused. And Esther called Hathach, one of the sovereign's eunuchs, whom he had appointed to attend her, and she gave him a command concerning Mordecai, to learn what and why this was. And Hathach went out to Mordecai to an open space in the city, in front of the sovereign's gate. And Mordecai told him all that befell him, and about all the silver that Haman promised to pay into the sovereign's treasuries to destroy the Jews. And he gave him a copy of the written decree to destroy them, which was given at Shushan, to show it to Esther, and explain it to her, and to command her to go into the sovereign to make supplication to him, and to plead before him for her people. And Hathach came and told Esther the words of Mordecai. And Esther spoke to Hathach and gave him a command for Mordecai. All the sovereign's servants and the people of the sovereign's provinces know that any man or woman who goes into the inner court of the sovereign who has not been called, he has but one law, to be put to death, except the one whom the sovereign holds out the golden scepter, who then shall live. But I have not been called to come into the sovereign these 30 days. And they declared to Mordecai the words of Esther. And Mordecai commanded them to Esther, do not think within yourself to escape in the sovereign's palace any more than all the other Jews. For if you keep entirely silent at this time, relief and deliverance shall arise for the Jews from another place, while you and your father's house perish. And who knows whether you have come to the reign for such a time as this? And Esther commanded to reply to Mordecai, go, gather all the Jews who are present in Shushan, and fast for me, and do not eat or drink for 3 days, day or night. I too, and my young woman, shall fast in the same way. Then I shall go to the sovereign, which is against the law. And if I shall perish, I shall perish. Mordecai then went away and did according to all that Esther commanded him. Ester 5. And it came to be on the 3rd day that Esther put on royal apparel and stood in the inner court of the sovereign's palace, in front of the sovereign's house, while the sovereign sat on his royal throne in the royal house, opposite the entrance to the house. And it came to be when the sovereign saw Sovereigness Esther standing in the court, that she found favor in his eyes. And the sovereign held out to Esther the golden scepter, which was in his hand. And Esther went near and touched the top of the scepter. And the sovereign said to her, what is it, Sovereigness Esther, and what is your request? Up to half my reign, and it is given to you. And Esther answered, if it pleases the sovereign, let the sovereign and Haman come today to the feast which I have prepared for him. And the sovereign said, get Haman at once, and do as Esther has said. Then the sovereign and Haman went to the feast which Esther had prepared. And the sovereign and Esther said to Esther at the feast of wine, what is your petition? And it is given you. And what is your request? Up to half my reign, and it is done. And Esther answered and said, my petition and request is this. If I have found favor in the eyes of the sovereign, And if it pleases the sovereign to give my petition and perform my request, then let the sovereign and Haman come to the feast which I make for them, and tomorrow I shall do according to the word of the sovereign. And Haman went out that day, rejoicing and with a glad heart. But when Haman saw Mordecai in the sovereign's gate, and that he did not stand or tremble before him, he was filled with wrath against Mordecai. But Haman held himself in and came to his house, and he sent and called for his loved ones and Zeresh his wife. And Haman recounted to them the esteem of his wealth and his many sons, and all in which the sovereign had promoted him, and how he had exalted him above the officials and servants of the sovereign. And Haman said, Besides, Esther the sovereigness, let no one but me come in with the sovereign to the feast which she prepared. And tomorrow, too, am I invited by her along with the sovereign. But all this does not suit me, as long as I see Mordecai the Jew sitting at the sovereign's gate. So his wife, Zeresh, and all his loved ones said to him, Let a wooden structure be made, 50 cubits high, and in the morning speak to the sovereign that Mordecai be hanged on it, and go with the sovereign to the feast, rejoicing. And the word pleased Haman, and he had the wooden structure made.